What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another random horror review. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yeah, episode 64 is here, and I've got another one here from Film Detective. A brand new label that I really like. They specialize in restoring like old classic films, especially like public domain films and stuff, and just kind of giving the treatment that they really do deserve. This one right here is from 1963. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. This is basically like his first full-length feature film. Produced by Roger Corman, of course, and it is called Dementia 13, if you haven't noticed that yet. Yeah, this is definitely a public domain film, and a very ambitious film, I have to say. But getting into the premise of this one right here, basically it follows your main character, Louise. At the beginning of the film, she's on a boat with her husband, John, and they're just kind of doing their thing, and John suffers a fatal heart attack and dies. But instead of doing the right thing, she basically dumps the body in the water and all the evidence and stuff like that, because she knows that if his family finds out about his death, she's going to be written out of the family's will, because his family's very rich. So, it kind of jumps forward to the weekend where they were supposed to be going to John's family to go to this annual memorial that John's family has for his sister that drowned years and years before. His mom is still dealing with all the things, all the mishaps and, things of what you go through when you lose a kid and stuff like that. The whole family's still grieving from years before, basically. And so she gets there, and of course John isn't there, and she has to explain to the family that, he's away on business, and, here's a letter. She kind of forged a letter and things like that. And then about halfway through the film, an event happens, and then it sets off like basically a chain reaction of events, and it turns into kind of a murder mystery, kind of whodunit type deal, and that's your premise of the film right there. Now, my thoughts on this movie. Now, I've always really enjoyed this film. Francis Ford Coppola definitely was feeling the ambition in this film. I definitely feel the ambition in this film. But this movie definitely suffers from budget constraints. Being produced by Roger Corman, it's going to be a low budget film, which it does show in lots of aspects. It only runs about 75 minutes. There's very little character development in the beginning of the film. It just you can tell that there's script constraints based on money, because there's just things that are just happening in this film that kind of jump all over the place. The script is, what I'm basically saying, is a little mudded at times, but it's a very ambitious film, and you can totally tell that the script solely derives from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. I mean, this is so Hitchcockian, it's like ridiculous. You can totally tell that the script took things straight out of Psycho, especially when you get to about the halfway point. I won't give anything away, but it's the structure of this movie is very similar to Psycho. Even though Psycho is such a better film and things like that, this one kind of compels itself straight from that. But it's an interesting film. When the murders start happening in this one, they a little bit, I find myself being quite shocked by them, even though I've seen this film a few times. But it's just shocking to see those type of vicious and, malicious killings, especially with an axe from 1963. Like, it's kind of nasty, which I really do like. But, this, like I said, this one suffers from a script that's kind of mumbled in the second half of the film, and ultimately becomes a little bit predictable in exactly who is the killer and things like that. But it doesn't really take anything away from the film. Like I said, it's an ambitious film that does work on a lot of different levels, especially in 1963. If you had to watch this when it came out, it would have been just fantastic. But us, with all the films that we've seen over the years and stuff like that, many things like this, you can probably pick out the killer right away, without saying too much about it. But it's a cool film. I like the setting. I think the acting's pretty good in it. It's got some pretty decent atmosphere. The music's not bad. It's creepy at times. But it does drag actually at parts. There's a little bit of development with this doctor, and he's trying to figure out things that are going on, and I just find it just kind of drags. It kind of snail paces itself into the third act, which is very, very short in this too, like a lot of these earlier 60 films. But it's still a pretty good film, man. I have to give Francis Ford Coppola a lot of credit, man. You can tell this is definitely not on the same level as, his Godfather films and, The Conversation. And my favorite war film of all time was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, which is Apocalypse Now. He went on to do Bram Stoker's Dracula also, which is pretty cool. And he also did Twix, I think, a couple years back, which was kind of like a return film for him. But yeah, it's kind of cool that he got his, his start in horror films, and, it's really not a bad film. It's definitely one you need to check out if you've never seen Dementia 13. It's definitely worth checking out. I give this one about a 6 out of 10. It's nothing mind blowing. It's good for what it is, but good film. Now to the Blu-ray. PQ, this is probably the best this film's ever looked. Like I said before, it is a public domain film. So, usually the transfers on public domain films are really bad. This one is in widescreen in 1.781 aspect ratio, so it actually does look pretty good. And, no special features, unfortunately. But, yeah, give it a shot. Probably not that expensive right on the website. And, yeah, check out Dementia 13, man. It's pretty cool, man. So that is going to do it for episode 64. I will be back with some reviews very, very soon. So stay tuned for those. And, as usual, peace!